Hello and welcome. My name is Sebastian Wennemers. I'm from one of the UI5 development teams, and I want to tell you today how you can kickstart your asynchronous acceptance test with OPA5. So, asynchronous acceptance test, OPA5, what's that all about? Well, you might know testing is an important topic in our industry. We want to deliver fast and often. We want to provide value to our customers, so we have to get the features out to the customer. But we also need to have the right quality. So we have to, on the one hand, ensure to give features out, and on the other hand, we have to make sure that we have the right quality out there. So this, for this session, I've created an application, a simple Fiori application to track sales orders. You can navigate to the different sales orders. You can search for one and go to that one, and you could edit it over here. So in order to test this application, we can have several strategies. First of all, the best thing you can do is to write unit tests for the units that you produce that can run in isolation. The problem usually with the UI5 Fiori application is that you're not so much creating single units that you're testing, but you're more integrating a lot of existing pieces, data binding, and so on, so that you don't have really single units, but the important part is on whether you have connected the different parts correctly. Therefore, you probably need a solution to do the integration testing. Integration testing, unfortunately, often comes with the cost of creating tests that are hard to maintain, slow to run, and sometimes failing out of reasons irrelevant to the changes you did to the application. To overcome these issues, OPA5 was created, a testing framework tightly integrated with UI5, so that you can work directly on the UI5 controls API, the stuff where UI5 promise you that it will stay stable. And you don't have to take care about the low-level details, how a list is rendering the search box. Several DOM elements are involved here to represent the input and the search buttons, icons. So if you would use a integration testing tool that has no integration into the UI framework, you would have to understand the internal structures of each and every control that you're using to write the tests. And this internal structure is not even promised to stay stable. So when you want to know on whether your UI5 upgrade can be done without any problem, you run your tests, and then the tests are just failing because internal structures of UI5 are changed. Well, tests provide no value in the moment where you need them the most. So better stay on the stable APIs, also for your tests. So in your tests, you have another problem. In UI5, JavaScript, the browser world, lots and lots of things happen asynchronously. So when entering an entry here and triggering the search, it's not immediately happening that there's only one entry here. And when you click on it, it's not immediately happening that on the right side, titles values have changed. UI5 the rendering happens asynchronously. You have to wait for routing to take place. You have to wait for the backend requests to arrive. So lots and lots of things to wait for. So while you can do that also with other frameworks, OPA5 has this asynchronous behavior tightly integrated into its core concepts. So let's create some tests for this page so that we can build up the safety net that allows us to deliver more features for this app. The nice thing about OPA5 is that you don't have to install anything. It comes together with UI5 and you don't need any WebDriver or anything else. It runs completely inside the browser. So let's do the setup. We'll create a folder for our integration tests. We then create a file inside to start all the OPA tests. So we'll call it OPA tests QUnit.html. OPA5 integrates nicely with QUnit as test runner, as that's also used for unit testing in UI5. So we'll do the basic bootstrapping of UI5, request UI5, and we'll tell it that our application is 2 levels up in the web app folder, and then we'll delegate all the work to an all journeys JavaScript file. We'll create that file, and this file, all journeys, is responsible to load, first of all, QUnit, do the basic OPA5 configuration, and then start everything. Wrong one, wrong template copied. That's no problem. Yeah. So after requiring some basic artifacts, we load OPA5, we do a general configuration, and then we'll start the tests. And what you can see here already in the general configuration, we are working in terms that are known to UI5, like view namespaces, like UI5 views. So all of that is there so that you have an easier life. And let's try what we can see here already. Let's run it. You can run it as web application. And you can see here we have a basic QUnit test page available. So no mistake done so far. You might wonder, few steps had been necessary, creating folders, creating this journeys file. The wizards inside the SAP Web IDE can create that out of the box. And for most of the templates that you can use in the wizards, already some OPA tests are generated. Nevertheless, I wanted to create them step by step so that you get a feeling what these files are all about and why they are there. So let's start with a search journey. And for that, we'll have a wizard for a journey. Where come these journeys from? So I see the tests through our application more or less like a journey through the application. That means all the stuff now related to searching for sales orders gets into one journey where steps build on top of each other. We want to build on top of each other so that we can have our tests still running fast, and often that's the logical way, that the first thing is doing one part, then you test the second part and the third part inside a journey. So we tell it the search name, and then we'll tell where is this all journeys container for the journeys, and then we can confirm that and finish. So we see it's created in the wrong folder. I have taken it into, selected the wrong part, but that's no problem. We'll just adjust it. We'll adjust it easily here and test integration search journey. So in this all journeys JavaScript file, our search journey is now required, loaded, and therefore the tests from the search journey will be integrated into our test page. So this search journey will require the OPA QUnit integration, and I've prepared a little snippet for a test. So we'll use the QUnit module to say we're going on the list and searching inside of that. And instead of the QUnit test, we'll have an OPA test. And this OPA test, first thing, initially, we want to show 3 orders here. So we start the app and want to see 3 orders on the left side. That's what we want to test. Then this OPA test function gets 3 important parameters: a given, a when, and a then parameter. They all inherit from the OPA5 object and provides us the possibility to write our tests like this. Given I start my app, then on the master view, the list should have the given numbers of orders 3. Something that reads similar or close to an English sentence. And it's important that your integration tests can be easily mapped to the requirements that you have in your requirements documents. They should be easily to understand and should not include too many technical details. So given is the setup part. When something happened, the things that you are testing are triggered. Then a certain outcome is there. So given I start my app initially, then we'll have a certain numbers of orders there. So where do these nice little functions come from? Well, the given part comes from something OPA calls an arrangement. So to do that, we'll update our all journeys file with a little snippet that we integrate here. So we want to load a commons page here, common arrangement. And for that we create a new folder to separate it a little bit. Common.js. No, the full first. Pages, and inside this page, create a new file, common.js, an arrangement, and for that, in that file, I have a little bit of content here. So we again requiring OPA5. And all these arrangements extend from the OPA5 object. And here we provide the I start my app functionality. Inside this function, we have access to the OPA5 internal functions to start an UI component. And here we just give our component name so that we can start the UI component. You have also options to start an app in iframe so that you can base directly, for example, on this mock server HTML page, starting a UI component directly is much faster. So we'll do that here. So now we have the I start my app. Where does this on the master view comes from? So let's create a new so-called page object. A page object for the master view. Some of you might know the test design pattern page objects, also used in Selenium, also used in other frameworks. Page objects are there to capture the whole interaction with a certain page, a certain part of your application. In UI5, that maps quite nicely to the views that we have in UI5. So in this wizard, I can select the master view and I can select all the controls that I want to have them in my page available. And what you can see is that now a page object is created. Again, in the wrong folder. I'm somehow always misselecting things. Nevertheless, it helps us to understand what was generated automatically. We got this page. There's required upfront in the all journeys JavaScript. And then inside there's an OPA5 create page objects function, where we can give a map on the master, on the master view. So this part maps to the name you give your page object. And then we have two parts, an action part that we look into soon, and an assertion part. So the assertion part is that will then be added to the then. So we want to have an assertion. The list should have the given numbers of orders. And orders, and we'll always returning wait for calls. This is where the asynchronous part of OPA5 comes into the game. Here we are. So we tell OPA5 that it should wait until it finds a control with the ID list inside the master view. That means while this list in the DOM has the view ID and the component ID as prefixes, which in the end you might partially know, partially you don't, depending on how you integrate the view or the component. You don't have to take care about that in your testing. You just work against the ID that you gave the control inside your XML view. Next thing is that we not just want to see that there is this control, we also want to have, we want to wait for this control to have a certain number of orders. Therefore, we have the matchers, and there's one built in, the aggregation length equals matcher. Matchers come from the SAP UI test matchers folder, and so we wait for this list control that its items aggregation has the size that we provide. We'll then have the success callback from OPA5, where we just do our assertion. We found enough entries. So now we have the pieces together. We can start the app based on the arrangement in this comments.js. And we can look on whether the list should have the given numbers of orders, being 3. Let's rerun the tests and see what is happening. Hey, so you see OPA5 has rendered the component of our application at the side, and it has executed our test. So let's continue. Let's search for an order inside. So we'll write a new test, and I've prepared a short snippet of that. So after we have initially 3 items inside, we want to check that we can find a single order. So therefore, when on the master view, I enter the search term 58 and I trigger the search, then on the master view, the list should have the given numbers of orders 1. So this part is already provided. Now let's look into this I enter the search term. So these parts are in the actions object of our page object. So I enter a search field, enter text into the search field. So yeah, let's call it I enter the search term, and of parentheses, and yes, term text, and so we're looking for the search field inside this view, the master view, and we can trigger an action. And the enter text action is the thing that we provide as parameter here. These actions, enter text and press, so another, I trigger the search, help us to simulate actions on the controls. And it will trigger the corresponding events inside the controls. So we don't have to take care to simulate mouse up, mouse down, key down, key up, and so on. So let's run our second test, and I have done a type error. I enter search term. I should use the right search term. Here. So you see, we have now entered 58, and we have only one entry in here. Let's continue with the navigation, like clicking on it so that we are then on the details page. So with the next test, in our search journey, that we can navigate to an order. So when on the master view I press on the order with the ID and so on, then on the details view I see the title being changed. So for this to work, we'll update the master view, master page object with an action on the list. So and not the whole list, but the object list item. And here we are looking not for a specific list item based on the ID, but based on a binding path, so that we can get independent on the actual texts and parts of this entry in the list that we want to show. So I will just require that. Binding path matcher over here. I have to comma over there. So with that we have a nice action to trigger a press action on a certain object list item. The next thing is that we have to create this time it's working, a new page for the detail page. The container again, still the old containers, and we could select also the detail view here. This time it had worked. So I've prepared that a little bit to make things a bit faster. Again, a page object, but just with an assertion. Should copy everything. Of course, SAP UI5 UI design. So we create a page object on the detail view. In assertion, I see the title, and this time we'll use a property matcher. So we're looking for the property title to get a certain value. So you saw now different ways to wait for controls being there. Basic properties. We're looking for binding paths and just a control type directly with IDs, or with IDs and aggregation information. There are a few more built-in matchers in OPA5. Have a look into the Explored app for examples. And you can also provide your own matcher just as a plain function. So you should be able to find more or less all controls inside your application with these mechanisms. So let's look on whether we have everything together. We have the press action on the list items. We have the title assertions on the detail view. So let's run our tests and we'll see the navigation happening. If that was too fast for you, OPA5 also allows you to slow down execution. So especially if you want to find out what a test is actually doing. So it goes slowly through it, and then it will trigger the press and the navigation. But for normal development, we want to have it running fast, which is the default. We can also enable the code coverage, having a look at the coverage figures. And here we see lots of UI5 internals there. We can improve that a little bit. And inside the all journeys, after requiring the code coverage, we can say we just want to cover all our application coding and we shouldn't cover our tests. So with that, we should get much better figures. So see, our component has some test coverage. Some of our controllers could be improved. So we get a feeling about the safety net that we have. I hope I gave you a few hints how you can kickstart your acceptance testing, your integration testing with OPA5. It's not so difficult as some people might think of. And I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye and see you the next time.